I'm convinced that R.F. Kuang does not know how to write an ending. That is what I expected to say when I got towards the end of this book, and I was like, oh no, is this a repeat of Babel? Today I'm going to talk about R.F. Kuang, um, Katabasis, and yes, Katabasis is a real word. It existed before R.F. Kuang wrote this book, and I looked up the pronunciation as well as the definition. So several sources have said that it's pronounced Katabasis, even though R.F. Kuang said you can pronounce it however you want. I guess technically nothing would happen. It's not illegal to mispronounce a word, but the correct pronunciation is Katabasis. Katabasis. What does katabasis mean? A journey downwards, a journey downhill, a decrease of winds, a military retreat, a trip to the underworld, a trip from the interior of a country to the coast. So I guess that settles that debate. All right, let's get into it. This is R.F. Kuang, Katabasis. I just finished this book last night, and while I was reading it, I read it without the dust cover, and I actually prefer how it looks without the dust cover. But here you have the sprayed edges, and this book is just beautiful. It's good quality. I love the thickness of the pages. They really put in a good effort to make a good quality book. So this is one that I'm actually glad that I bought when it was released, and I have a nice hardcover version of it. At first, I wasn't sure if I would do a video on this book because I didn't take any notes while I was reading it. I was just enjoying the process of reading it. I just wanted to experience it without thinking about what I'm going to say in the video or what notes I should write down or what's important. So because of that, I said, well, maybe I shouldn't make a video because I know there are going to be a lot of things that I don't remember or I won't remember. But then on the other hand, I'm not a professional book reviewer, and I'm only talking about my thoughts. I don't have to be perfect and remember everything. So these are my thoughts based on what I remember from reading Katabasis. Katabasis is said to have been inspired by Piranesi as well as Dante's Inferno. Both are books that I have read as well as enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed Piranesi the most, but I would say that this book is heavily inspired by Dante's Inferno. I could see a bit of Piranesi and why it will be described in that way as well, just because of the fantastical element, the magical realism. But I'd say it's definitely leaning more towards Dante's Inferno inspiration. And she also mentions Dante throughout this book. If you're not familiar with what this book is about, we follow Alice and Peter, and they are grad students at Cambridge University. They're both studying analytic magic. I think that's what it was, analytic magic. They're both studying this at Cambridge, and they both have a professor named Professor Grimes. Now, early on in the book, we find that Professor Grimes has created a pentagram, and he's tried to do this experiment, but it went terribly wrong. And come to find out, Alice is the reason why this experiment went wrong. So Professor Grimes ended up dying and going to hell, and she ends up planning to go down to hell to bring him back. She wants him to give her good marks on her dissertation. He's very popular in the academic circles, and having his word back her up is something that will give her greater influence as well as better opportunities in the future when it comes to career opportunities. Now, Peter, he sees what Alice is doing, and he follows behind her, and he tells her that he is going to go with her on this trip to hell, which Alice doesn't want him to do, but they end up going there together in order to bring Professor Grimes back. I think one of the main reasons that I enjoyed reading this book from the beginning is just because of how similar to Dante's Inferno it was, and I was just interested in seeing what happens at the next court. In the court, you see how the sinners that have gone to hell, how their souls are being punished based on each sin that they have committed while they were living. So of course, Alice and Peter, they're not dead. So they can move along in hell differently than the other souls that are there and being punished. In the book, they're not called souls, they're called shades. So it's kind of similar to a soul, just different wording. Now, they meet different characters along the way, and they have to travel through courts, which in part of the half of the courts, they actually mirror the Cambridge campus. So they get to see students. You get to see a comparison of how the students in the living world, how what they're doing is very similar to what someone in hell would be doing. It's a worse version of what they would be doing if they were actually on campus and living. So they travel through hell and they try to figure out which sin Professor Grimes committed. They don't really know him personally, but they can go based on what they've seen of him. And we see that Professor Grimes may not have been as good of a person as he appeared to be. Maybe people just, they look at his influence and they admire it, and they don't want to really talk about how bad of a person he actually is. I say that from the beginning of this book, I was really into it. I just took my time reading it, and there was no point of it in which I said, dang, I wish this was shorter, or this could have been 100 pages shorter. None of that, which I do sometimes say in books that are more than 500 pages. A lot of them just have a lot of filler content. I think she did a really good job of setting the pace in the story to where it will keep you engaged throughout. I was worried throughout that the ending was not going to be what I was hoping to be, and it was hoping that it would be, and it really wasn't. Towards the end, I was a little bit disappointed, but it still was a good ending. I'll say that it was very cheesy, very corny, and I didn't feel like the ending really matched the rest of the book. It also didn't meet my expectations when it comes to how I feel like someone in hell should be punished, or how the Lord of the Underworld would punish someone or speak to someone, especially when you're in their domain and you're still a living being. You're not a soul that's there for punishment. So I thought it was just like, the ending was kind of like a Disney movie, and it didn't really match the vibe of the rest of the book. Now, it's definitely not as bad as I thought Babel's ending was. So I say that she did a good job with improving the ending of this one. Hopefully her next book will have an even better ending. It seems like she just needs a little bit push when it comes to writing the ends of the books. Maybe she's a bit tired from her creativity, from writing such an engaging plot for the rest of the story, and when she gets to the end, she's just tired. I don't know what it is, but the ending really didn't match to me. It didn't make sense. It wasn't what I was looking for or expecting. But I'm glad that I ended up reading the entire book because I truly loved it. This is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, maybe one of my favorite books of all time. This is definitely one to remember and one that I definitely recommend reading. Have you read Katabasis? Do you look forward to it? Did you enjoy it? Please let me know down in the comments. And I thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.